Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. Settle back, everybody. Buckle up your seats. I have an amazing show today. You know, we brought on someone that I call an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. I mean, his name is Mr. Patch Baker. You may know about Patch. I mean, he's the CEO and founder of Mobius Media Solutions. We brought him on today specifically to talk about entrepreneurship. And when we think about entrepreneurs, I mean, Patch is not only an investor in dozens and dozens and dozens of businesses, he has also had successful exits from companies. He's entering new companies all the time. He's always looking for the newest, latest, and greatest thing. He sort of has his pulse on what's happening out there in the world. And I call him a zeitgeist because he really understands forward thinking. He understands, what people are looking for before they even know they're thinking about it. So I'm real excited to have Patch on the show today. Patch, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We had a great conversation prior to this interview. And of course, you really focus on building the best businesses. I mean, you really have this passion that you believe that, good is the enemy of great, to take the old title of the great book. And you really look at business in a much different way than many entrepreneurs do. Let's talk about that. What's the most important thing when you're looking at a business? Is it the team? Is it the concept? Is it the way they're handling their customers? When you start looking at a company to invest in, what are you looking for, first thing?
Yeah, first thing usually is who the people are. Because I really feel like you can fix a business, you can adjust a product, you can bring on a new revenue stream, you can do that kind of stuff. But I mean, there's been lots of comedy skits. You can't fix stupid. you can't really get somebody out of their own way sometimes. And that's really difficult. It's hard to beat. Because sometimes people treat these businesses like they're, their baby, and they don't want any changes to happen. Unfortunately, they're also the bottleneck for mega growth. So they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, and that's no fun. So,
yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world, Patch. And, I think about it. I think about you, and you look at the team, you look at the people, part of this is from your experience of being involved in so many companies. I mean, there's this gut feel that people have, that first blink about other people, but also data really drives a lot of your decisions too. I know you're a big believer in data. How important is data to the overall scheme of entrepreneurship and looking at a business?
Yeah. The funny thing about data is it's been pushed around so much that now people are overloading themselves with data. They don't even know what they're looking at anymore. Like it's so much. So we kind of figured out this template. We know what a functional business is, right? A functional business has to have a product that people want. It has to be the thing that they say it is. They have to have some way to get people to see the product or service. It doesn't matter. There's certain things that you need in order to have a functional business. One of those is a product that you can get to market that actually has profit at the end of it when everybody else is paid. And you'd be surprised how many people do not figure that part out. So what we've kind of done is we've worked out a system where we just keep putting it on businesses. And a lot of times it's disruptive because, if you take data into a plumbing company, there's not many plumbing companies that have that, or a roofing company, or you take a physical product to a CPA firm, or to you disrupt by putting the same thing on every business, but certain parts of that means that you're doing things that other people aren't doing in the market, which is a great way to, even from an SEO standpoint, offering standpoint, the way that, we went to a CPA firm and we did digital videos on common tasks, even things like filling out W-2 paperwork or 1099 paperwork. And nobody had ever experienced that before. Everybody had to, call their CPA or do whatever. And it was just a big waste of time. So we put in these like knowledge centers in a industry that typically doesn't have anything like it. And it's been fun because it pushes my limits. It pushes my team's limits. We're always constantly trying to come up with new things that are not just new offerings, but are highly valuable to the end, which means your cart values go up, which means lifetime value goes up, which means, you can thrive in a lot of businesses where other people are, struggling to keep up with the competition.
Yeah, Patch, very straightforward. We talk to a lot of younger entrepreneurs. And of course, you work with a lot of younger entrepreneurs as well. You're young yourself, but you've got a vast background and experience. We talk to them. They love their technology. They love their business. They get all crazy about it. You know how it goes. Mm-hmm. But they don't talk about the customer. They don't talk about the client sometimes.
Yeah.
I would imagine from your perspective that there's a disassociation there. In other words, shouldn't these younger startup founders be worried and thinking about and trying to delight their clients and customers instead of only thinking about what they're doing inside the company?
Yeah. Let's start with the tech part first, because I think that's a really key point. If you're a tech person, you assume everybody else is a tech person. So you got all these techie gadgets, but nobody else knows how to run them. And even if they can figure that out, they don't run them effectively. So a lot of times we're going in and stripping out a lot of technology to more streamline the training and the how people use those systems. And then the second part of that is, yes, we do have to worry about the customer, but not in the way that a lot of people preach it, because although customers are important to the business, obviously, they don't always know what they want. And sometimes what they ask for is not what they actually want, right? They might ask for, I need a new website, but they don't actually know what to do with the website. And the things that they want on the website don't actually get the thing that they want, which is more customers or more money. So maybe they don't need a new website. Maybe they need a better follow-up process. So it's not, I'm one of those people, I go a little against the grain on this. I don't believe that the customer is always right, but I do believe that your system should educate the customer when they come in the door on what they actually need, not necessarily the latest buzzword that's going around the internet.
Yeah, really interesting. It's very a unique approach. And you're right. And I would imagine, as part of your background and experience, one thing that potentially is important for companies and for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show is, do you advise them to ask their customers what they want, advise them to sort of reach out to their customers and find out what they can do better so that they can continually improve the offering?
And again, I know I go against the grain on this a little bit, but nobody knew that they wanted 50,000 songs in their pocket when the iPod came out, right? They educated you on that. And I think when you go ask customers what they want, one, you get so many variations of comments. You don't want to build your business for one person. So what I try to do is I'm trying to educate people on why they need something that they didn't even know was available, or they didn't even realize was possible, or they weren't expecting it. So it comes as like surprise and delight instead of like another upsell, which is what most companies are doing. They're like, oh yeah, I got another upsell and another upsell, and you can go to this course and then this mastermind and then this group and this getaway. And it's like, instead of doing that, Apple had it right. Apple put songs in your pocket, and then they gave you a tablet, and then they gave you a laptop, and then they gave you a phone, and now they're, rolling out their own ads platform. And like, they didn't ask you what you wanted. I don't think any of us ever got a message from Apple saying, hey, what should we design next? I think if we are the ones that are using our creativity and understanding the right data, then we understand what the problems are. We identify those, and then we say, hey, Andy, we got this cool thing. You might want it. And people usually take it.
I love it. It's really interesting, Patch. And of course, as you mentioned, there's this give and take. There's this yin and yang. And one thing that you really have become an expert at in your own life, your own business, your own journey is negotiation. So maybe, you could do a full, 30 hours on negotiation, but maybe just for the people watching the show, you could give some highlights about the way you think about negotiation in terms of a business or in terms of your personal life. What are some of the championship thoughts about negotiation?
I believe that negotiation is really only limited by your own creativity. And if you can figure out a way to give the other person a win, you pretty much can win every negotiation. Now, an example of that would be, let's say somebody wants to, sell their business because they need to, buy a house. Well, if I could get you the house and you didn't have to sell the business and you could partner with me and stay in the business and run the day to day, but we could still get you to the house, does that mean that we could strike up a deal? And if they say yes, that's a great thing. I think if you give them what they need and not the weird thing that the thing that they're necessarily asking for, you can come up with some pretty cool negotiation stuff that is a win for everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting. You make it a win for everybody in a much different way. And you look at business a little bit differently than a lot of people. And that's one of the areas of your success. You talk about building a business backwards. And I love that so much. What do we mean by that? Because that's a super cool concept.
A lot of people are just working on the day-to-day. They're thinking about, okay, I got to make these phone calls. I got to do these emails. I got to, get on social media and post 85 times a week and all that kind of stuff. But everybody's looking down. There's an analogy where, let's say you were out in the desert and you see a tree, an oasis out in the distance. Well, if you look down and you walk and then you look up and find the tree and you look down and you walk, by the time you get to the tree and you look back at your footsteps in the stand, it's a curvy path. But same scenario, but you just keep looking at the tree. You walk straight to the tree and you turn around and look, and that's going to be a straight path. And so what we've done is this is not my own concept. This is from years in the Marine Corps where I learned mission planning, and they always start with, what do you want at the end, and backward plan from that. This is where I want to go. And these are all the little things that I got to do to get there. And just keeping your eye on that. If you know the end state, by the time I'm done, I'll have this. If you know that part, it's a hell of a lot easier to understand what are the meaningful steps in that direction instead of just a bunch of footsteps around. It's like, would you rather be efficient at being effective, or would you rather be busy being busy? And most people are busy being busy.
Yeah, I love it. Let's talk about what you learned from being in the armed forces. I mean, did you take some information, some learning, some planning expertise and turn it into an entrepreneurial opportunity for yourself? How did you take that experience and work it into your entrepreneurial journey, Patch?
Yeah, all of it. Every single piece of it, from mission planning to leadership to task organization to, inventory controls, like literally everything. I've applied that, and it's been fun too, because the veterans that I've worked with, they get it right away. But what I found super interesting was that civilians really find it fun too, because you say, hey, look, this is how we do it in the military, and these are all the reasons. And then you turn around and you're like, so we're going to do it in your business. And they're like, yeah, let's do that. So it's actually pretty fun educating them. And I think it also passes along a lot of goodwill to, just people supporting the veteran community and remembering that there's somebody out there deployed today, so that we can just be on this podcast and say whatever we want to say,
Yeah, we honor all of our vets. Of course, we honor you. We thank you for your service. My wife and I do, and the entire team at DotCom magazine. Let's talk about something fun. Mm-hmm. You talk about someone's higher nature. You talk about, discovering your higher nature. You've had some, mind fix groups and things like that to help people do that. what do we mean to the entrepreneurs watching the show, Patch, about discovering their higher nature?
Yeah. I find this interesting. If you were to tell me how you were going to grow your own company, and you say, I want to do this, this, and this, and you say, okay, how long do you think that would take? Most people will give you a year or 3 years or 5 years, and you say, hey, what would stop you from doing that in the next 90 days? And we're like, oh, well, I got too much on my plate. So that means it's not a high enough priority. And it's kind of crazy if you start really breaking it down and you say, okay, what would you need to do in order to reach all those things? You backward plan. And then you say, really, truly, what would take you so long? What part of that would take that long? And they never have an answer. And it's this crazy thing about if you think a little bit bigger and you get rid of all the white noise that just sucks up your time, and you only do the things that move you in that forward motion. The crazy thing is your ideas will start getting bigger because you'll hit that thing way faster than you thought. Whatever that goal was or that milestone was, you'll hit it way faster than you think if you're only focused on that. And next thing you know, you're like, well, I was really only thinking small before. And you think you arrive at a bigger thought, and then you hit that and you're like, I was thinking too small. And it's like self-perpetuating. The bigger you think, the bigger you think. And I will tell you this, if you set out, there's a thing called Parkinson's law, which is if you give yourself 30 days, it'll take you 30 days to do it. If you give a kid an hour to clean up the room, they'll play for 55 minutes and clean up in 5. But you could have just given them 5 minutes and they would have had it done an hour earlier. So Parkinson's law also works internally on yourself, and it works on other people. So if you say, I'm really in my heart of hearts, I'm going to give myself a year to build this to see if it can really go. Don't do that. Say, look, I'm going to give myself a week. Can I get it to move in a week? Right. And what happens is the faster you move, and like I said before, the bigger you think, it's almost like if you can see it can be much bigger, you can also see it can go much faster. And if you keep applying those two synergistically, you start accomplishing stuff way faster. And unfortunately, if you don't tell other people the way you're thinking, other people think you're crazy because they can't understand why you're putting a 3-day time limit on something that other people give 30 days for. So
I love it.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so great for entrepreneurs watching the show. Rewind what Patch just said. I mean, that's a golden nugget. That's like a mini Harvard MBA in about 3 minutes right there. I love it. Now, Patch, one thing that I love about what you do, one thing that I love about what you talk about, and one of the things that really resonates for me and will resonate for our viewers. And again, thank you for cutting out some time today out of your busy schedule.
Yeah.
You talk about fear. And entrepreneurs do have fear. A lot of them, even before they get started, they're filled with fear. But and you talk about all the time, eliminating fear and how to find success. Let's talk about that, because I think that's going to be pretty eye-opening for the people watching the show today.
Now, everybody brace, because I'm going to say something that not everybody says. I do think that there are things that can create fear. I'm not saying that they're nowhere, but I would say a majority of fear is internal BS. You're creating it for yourself. If we take any fear out there on the planet, you take fear of speaking. There's people out there that make a living speaking. Fear of heights. There's people that work on skyscrapers and jump out of perfectly good airplanes for fun on the weekends. Fear of snakes. There's a veterinarian out there that all they want to do is play with snakes. Now, it doesn't mean that there's no risk there. It means that they have a calculated risk based off of their education, experience, and exposure. So therefore, if we, again, backward plan off of that, people that have fear of things, or it's the blanket term, they actually take away the value of the word fear, but the blanket term of they put, I'm scared of this, or I have a fear of this happening. Really, all they all that it is they have a lack of education, experience, or exposure. So the first way to start getting over your fear is just get educated on what it is that you're going to do, whether that's speaking on stage or writing a book or making a YouTube video or whatever you put in that blank. And then get a little bit of exposure on a small group scale, right? Your friends, your family, people that you know, that you trust. Get that little bit of experience and then just slowly start expanding it. And then once you get experience, you're going to be like, yeah, a day ago, I was really scared of it, but now I'm fine. Or a year ago, I couldn't do this. Now I can. But this is the reason why this is true. And we know it's true, even though nobody wants to say it out loud. The most dangerous thing you can do as a human is be in a car. Well, how come nobody drives down the road just white-knuckled, scared, crying, trembling? How come that never happens? It's because we've been in cars. We've driven cars. We've had other people drive us in cars before we even knew how to operate a car, most of us. So if that's the most dangerous thing to do on a human, and most of us, even though we're not supposed to, we're talking, we're texting, we're singing songs on the radio. I saw a lady the other day putting on her makeup going down the road. If you'll do all that, if your brain can actually go on autopilot for so long that you drive home when you were supposed to stop at the grocery store, or you drive 3 miles past where you were supposed to turn because you were just on autopilot, your brain is checked out. Well, if that's the case, you're doing the most dangerous thing you can do, and you're not paying attention at all. I guarantee you've been on a lot of podcasts. I've been on a lot of podcasts. We don't even think about the fact that we're going to be on a microphone and thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people are going to hear us. That is of no consequence to us. It's just two dudes having a conversation. But there are other people that are like, I'm scared to go on podcasts. I don't want to sound stupid. I don't want to say the wrong thing. Who cares? Start small, grow big, education, experience, and exposure. Those fears go away, which means they were bullshit to begin with.
I love it, Pat. Start small, grow big. Awesome. Listen, for the people watching the show that like this conversation with Patch, I'm going to call it,
yeah.
We're going to have to come up with a name just for the Patch Baker episodes. We're going to bring you back on the show in probably another 6 months. You have a big announcement coming up. You're working on some great content to give back to the entrepreneurial community. Maybe you just give us a little highlight about that. And then when we bring you back on the show, we'll get it out there for you. But give us a little sort of inside look at DotCom Magazine, what you're working on, and what we're going to bring you back on the show about in a few months.
Yeah, so we're really putting the process that we use to keep putting, on the process and the functions and the systems that we put on every business to help them grow really quickly. Because, and again, this is probably not going to be the most popular podcast that you ever have, because I'm going to say another thing that's controversial, but a lot of the books that everybody leans to as the best business books, they're obsolete or antiquated at best because they were written in the 60s, 70s, 80s, early 90s, like before we had the internet. Things have changed, right? Like there's a different way to do things. And a lot of those were based on like post-war requirements of the country. And that's changed over time. And we've figured out a way that we can just, doesn't matter the vertical or the genre or the niche or whatever. There's certain things that you can apply to every business and they work, and we've tested them and we're releasing those notes.
The perfect process with Patch. I love it. It's going to be great for people to get a hold of that. I mean, everything's about a process. You're going to get it from someone that's done it time and time again successfully. And we all know that in entrepreneurship, you also take your licks and you get up off the ground, you wipe your knees off and, get the blood off your knees and hands and keep on pushing. And that's what it's all about. So Patch, this has been a great time with you today. I wanted to thank you again for cutting some time out. I
Yep.
love the way you look at things, the way that you look at negotiation, the way you look at this systematic approach, the way you look at actually clients is much different than many other entrepreneurs. And that's what makes what you have to say so interesting, because it gives a yin and yang about ways in which traditional entrepreneurs look at things and the way in which Patch looks at things. And by the time you take them all together, you have a perfect harmonized sort of approach. So Patch, I want to thank you so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
You got it. Thank you so much.